Hey folks, Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to the Watchman Newscast live stream. Hope everyone's having a great Monday. We've got a lot to talk about. I'm having a great Monday. Hey, if you watch me on a regular basis, you watch this live stream, you know I'm a Philly boy, a Northeast Philadelphia native, Fox Chase to be exact, and love my hometown Philadelphia Eagles. And they brought it home last night. I'm really surprised by the result. I don't know about everyone watching. I didn't think it would be a blowout, but at one point they were up 24 nothing at halftime, 40-6 in the fourth quarter before Kansas City scored two late kind of garbage time touchdowns. Anyway, put a smile on my face for sure. And what was really cool as well after the game, Coach Nick Sirianni, quarterback Jalen Hurts was a Super Bowl MVP, glorified God, gave him all credit. So I always love to see that. And I think it shows you a little bit more about the sense of revival I feel is coming to America right now and restoration, to see players more and more, and just not just athletes, but people across the board openly glorify God. And there's no hesitation doing that. There's no concern about getting canceled or any of the nonsense we saw over the past 4 years. So a good day for me. Super Bowl Sunday, of course, even though I wasn't in Philly for the game, which was painful to not be in my hometown to celebrate, but a good thing. And I know right now probably about 1 million people just clicked off because you're a Cowboys fan, a Patriots fan, a Chiefs fan. My apologies. Had to wait a little bit now. But some things to not celebrate are developments between Iran and Hamas. And we want to dig into that. And on one hand, you could say, look, we're celebrating what happened on Saturday with 3 Israeli hostages released. On the other hand, celebration is a strong word in that you've probably seen the footage by now, folks. These 3 Israeli hostages who were released were completely emaciated. I mean, President Trump compared their look to that of Holocaust survivors, as did some Israeli officials. It was just horrific. And if you had any doubt that pure demonic evil exists in 2025, Exhibit A is what we saw in Gaza on Saturday. The 3 hostages were for 491 days since they were kidnapped, taken hostage brutally on October 7th, 2023. They were beaten, tortured, starved, clearly starved, for nearly 5 days in underground tunnels. When they emerged, they were, again, emaciated, gaunt, looked severely unhealthy, and Israeli health officials confirmed there was malnutrition, all sorts of physical and mental issues, I'm sure, as well. This is what Hamas does. They're evil. They're demonic. It's a death cult of demonic Nazi orcs. It's what they are. And you see the big show they put on throughout these hostage releases over the past few weeks as part of this larger ceasefire deal. I mean, it's a bitter pill to swallow, the bitterest pill for Israel to swallow. To not only see Hamas parade these hostages emaciated before the cameras as thousands of those so-called innocent Palestinian civilians stand around and jeer and yell Allahu Akbar, but to not only that, to have to witness that, and you're getting hostages home scarred in more ways than physical. Israel has to release hundreds of hardened Palestinian terrorists in return. It's such a bitter pill to swallow that it just goes without saying. But I think Israel felt they were in a spot here where time was getting short. If they didn't move soon, they were afraid all of these hostages would be dead. So they swallowed this bitter, bitter pill, and they agreed to this ceasefire deal. And, you know, there's something to be said, I think, for that line of thinking among Israel's leaders. You saw these 3 hostages who came home on Saturday. Again, they looked like they just walked out of a concentration camp. There's no other way to put it. So Israel, the empathy of the people of Israel and their hearts breaking for the hostages' family, agreed to this deal. And look, to give you an idea of the sense of evil among Hamas, one of the hostages, one of these 3 hostages, these men who were released over the weekend, throughout his captivity, his Hamas captors said, hey, eventually you will be reunited with your family. And when they let him go, apparently they said, your family will be waiting for you. Well, when he returned back to Israel on Saturday, he learned that his family had been slaughtered by Hamas on October 7th. His wife and his 2 young daughters. He was taken captive and the rest of his family was killed. He didn't realize that throughout those nearly 500 days in captivity. No one ever told him. Hamas intentionally gave him hope and gave him the impression that his loved ones were still alive. They knew otherwise. And they knew that when he returned home, he'd learned they were all dead. Everyone he cared about was murdered. And Hamas laughed about it because they knew how much it would devastate this man who's already been devastated physically, mentally, in every way, emaciated, as I said. So that's the nature of the demonic evil that Israel is dealing with, that the United States is dealing with in the form of Hamas. Hamas, who is declaring victory, by the way, along with Iran on Iranian soil. Hamas leaders, we'll talk about that in a minute. You saw the title and thumbnail today. But President Trump aboard Air Force One yesterday on his way to attending the Super Bowl. That was an interesting nugget, by the way. The first ever sitting U.S. president to attend a Super Bowl. I was just surprised by that, but very interesting. But he said, look, this is horrific. And he's committed repeatedly to bringing the hostages home. I think every time Hamas does what they do, and he reportedly also, President Trump, a week ago when Bibi Netanyahu visited Washington, D.C., Trump, I believe, watched the unedited footage of the October 7th atrocities. I've seen it. Trust me, you don't want to watch it unless you have to. But I think it was 50 minutes of just raw footage of what Hamas did on October 7th. Beheadings, burnings, rapes, murders. Trump reportedly was supposed to view that video last week. I haven't confirmed that he did, but reports where he was going to watch it. Between that, assuming he did view that video, and between these horrific displays that Hamas is putting on every time they release hostages, Trump, I think, has been even more dug in here that we need to crush Hamas. That's ultimately a good thing because Bibi, Israel, they're certainly resolute and committed to crushing Hamas decisively. And I think Trump, I think he felt that way all along, but I think he's just been reinforced, I should say, in that view over the past few weeks, knowing what he knows now, since he came in office especially, seeing what he has seen, talking to Netanyahu, seeing the footage. And again, Hamas, evil is arrogant, right? We say it here often on the live stream, evil is arrogant, evil is foolish. And Hamas, just as it signed its own death warrant on October 7th, 2023, I think it's signing it's a second signature to the death warrant, if we could say that, because this is just the spectacle that they're making of these hostage releases and the condition that they're returning the hostages to Israel in is just reinforcing Israel's desire to crush them decisively. And the United States is right alongside with them in that intent. So again, evil is arrogant and foolish, and it's bringing the wrath upon its own head. And I've said throughout, when I've seen this Iranian axis smashed, including Hamas, Hezbollah, Assad in Syria, the Iranian regime itself, look, their air defenses have been destroyed by Israel over the past few months. And as I've seen that play out, I've said again and again, man, this is really Haman-type justice, where Haman was hung on the very gallows that he had built for Mordecai. And Iran and its ring of fire had built up and planned out all these devious schemes. And they had some early success on October 7th, 2023. But ultimately, they signed their own death warrant. Ultimately, they're being hung on the very gallows that they meant for Israel. That's biblical justice. That's what we've seen unfold here, folks. Biblical justice. And how fitting that the story of Mordecai and Esther and Haman took place in ancient Persia, which is modern day Iran. And Iran, remember, that's evidence for you right there. Iran is a Bible land. Mordecai, Esther, Darius, Cyrus. So my prayer, as we get into the nasty side of the Iranian regime here in a second, my prayer is for revival in that nation. And I think it's possible. It's home. And here's something to encourage you on your Monday as we're talking about some heavy stuff. Iran is home to the fastest growing church in the world. Imagine that. The world's #1 state sponsor of terrorism, where believers are tortured, imprisoned, executed, and yet they have a thriving underground church inside Iran. It's amazing. It's growing by leaps and bounds, just like in China. The message here, the moral of the story, you cannot stop the gospel. No one can stop the gospel. And it reminds you, too, of an Old Testament story in the book of Exodus where Pharaoh was murdering every newborn Israelite child. And yet they kept coming. The children kept multiplying and multiplying and multiplying. God knows what he's doing. And he's up to something special in Iran, I believe. In spite of all the madness there, God is moving there. Speaking of the madness, you have the title, the thumbnail, as you saw for today's live stream. Hamas leaders over the weekend were in Iran declaring victory. You might say, what are you talking about? Stakelbeck, the ring of fire has been smashed, as you just laid out. Iran's air defense is destroyed. The Iranian regime has never been weaker than it is right now. And by the way, I think it's either today or tomorrow that Iran's regime is celebrating the 46th anniversary, February 1979, when the Ayatollah Khomeini returned to Iran from exile in France. How nice. Thank you, France. And the Iranian Revolution was in full swing. It was the culmination, really, in many ways. The Ayatollah, the figurehead of the entire revolution, the spiritual leader, he returned and unleashed hell on the world, on Iran first and foremost, on the Iranian people, who are the main victims of this wicked regime, but on the Middle East, the region, and really the world, spreading chaos, terror, sowing discord wherever they go. Folks, wherever this regime goes, and this applied since February 1979 until today, wherever this regime goes, misery follows. Look at Yemen, Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, Gaza. Look at Iran itself. This is an evil, twisted, demonic regime. And you saw further evidence of that over the weekend when their dear friends in Hamas, what's left of Hamas's leadership, I should say, visited Iran. And I'm going to break down that meeting for you in a second, what exactly they said. And hey, we've said evil is arrogant, evil is foolish, it overplays its hand, but evil is also relentless. And what was clear from this meeting in Tehran between Hamas leaders and the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Khamenei, what was very clear is they're not going to stop. You would think that they may have gotten the memo, so to speak, that the heavy blows Israel had dealt them over the past few months would have really sent a message of deterrence, where Iran and its proxies say, whoa, okay, we're not going to mess with Israel. And now Trump's in town, the new sheriff, the old sheriff, he's new, and now he's back. We're going to slow our jets. Not so, according to their rhetoric. Evil like that, and this is what we're talking about with Gaza, what you're seeing here, what's on display, evil like this, folks, must be just decisively crushed. I think that's what God commanded the ancient Israelites when they took the land, when they inherited the promised land. They had to defeat those evil pagan tribes that were in the land. God said, destroy them, just completely destroy them. And you can see why. When a culture, a society is so evil and so rotten, and an organization, I should say a regime in particular, when a regime is just irredeemable, God says, you know what? They've turned from me completely. They're evil. They've completely given themselves over to reprobate minds and evil. Destroy them. That's what must be done to Hamas, Hezbollah, and ultimately Iran's leadership. And many of the Iranian people, by the way, would be none too happy, or all too happy, I should say, to help in that regard, to get rid of this regime. So we're going to talk about this Hamas-Iran meeting in a second. A little more, some new comments about that Gaza relocation plan that President Trump has put forth. First, quick reminder, if you like what you're hearing, current news, breaking news, current events from the Middle East, from an unapologetically biblical perspective. Be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you get alerts every time a new video is posted. Folks, we're coming to you practically every day, most weekdays, sometimes on the weekends, depending on the news cycle. So be sure to subscribe so you do not miss a video. I like to say we've got the most educated audience on YouTube, our watchmen and women on the wall. And we've got over 1 million subscribers now and growing fast. And that is for such a time as this. Speaking of Esther, right? For such a time as this, as I believe we're on the threshold right now of some major prophetic events in the Middle East. Gaza is part of that. And what President Trump's plan, if it succeeds, if it goes through, and a Saudi-Israel peace deal with the Abraham Accords as well, and what's going to happen with Iran and the nuclear program, all of this is stage setting for larger prophetic events to come. The prophetic chess pieces are moving on the board. So this is a good place to be if you like this kind of content, this kind of information. And by the way, we can't do this. We can't bring you these videos without our partners. And one of our great partners is ARTSA. Now, if you've been watching the channel from the early days, from the very beginning, you know that ARTSA is an organization that is near and dear to our hearts. It is artsabox.com. And let me say straight off the bat, for every ARTSA Box subscription, there is an 18% Watchman discount. The discount, use the discount code Watchman, that's M-A-N, Watchman 18. And look, ARTSA is an incredible Israeli small business. Hey, it's going to be a bigger business because they're highly successful. And the reason for that is they put out they produce an amazing product. Each ARTSA box is filled with the sights, the sounds, the tastes, the smells of the Holy Land of Israel. Israeli artisans and small businesses come together and make these handcrafted products, and they all go into an ARTSA box, which is a beautiful box, beautifully assembled, as you can see there, and they arrive at your doorstep from the Holy Land. Now, it might be on your bucket list. You've never been to Israel, or you've gone once, you can never get back. And it's been tough to get to Israel since October 7th. Let's face it. Airlines are just kind of resuming flights. So this is about as close as you can get to the real thing. An ARTSA box in your hands. Again, it's artsabox.com. Use a discount code Watchman18. That's M-A-N, Watchman18. And you're supporting Israeli small businesses here, folks, and that can't be understated because it's helping to fulfill the biblical mandate laid out in Genesis 12:3 to bless the people of Israel. That's a mandate. And right now, Israel's economy, look, it's struggling. 16 months of war on 7 fronts will do that to your economy, needless to say. Mass evacuations, displaced persons in the north and the south, yeah, that has a major economic impact. So this is a time right now, more than ever, it's Israel's time of greatest need, where Israel's economy needs a shot in the arm. And you can help do that with an ARTSA box subscription, supporting these incredible Israeli small businesses, many of which have fallen on hard times since October 7th. Again, it's artsabox.com. You'll get great handcrafted Israeli-made products from the Galilee, Jerusalem, Nazareth, Bethlehem, the Negev, the Golan. It's amazing. I really believe in what ARTSA is doing because we've got a standard of excellence on this channel, and ARTSA has a standard of excellence. Nothing's done halfway. It's done with excellence. It's so impressive. And my kids, who are tough critics, say, Dad, when's the next ARTSA box? They love them. They love when the boxes come. They go through them. So for the Israel lover in your life, can't think of a better present, better gift. Discount code Watchman18. It's artsabox.com. Check it out. Okay, let's talk about this meeting between Israel and Hamas. Here's the headline from the Jerusalem Post, just reading this straight off my phone. Hamas leaders defiant in Iran. They say the Palestinians are like olive trees, steadfast in their land. The meeting comes in the wake of Trump's, not my word, but audacious in a good way, Trump's audacious plan for the U.S. to take over the Gaza Strip for the foreseeable future. Mohammed Ismail Darwish, head of Hamas's political council, claimed that the Palestinians are this is the greatest response to Trump and his projects. They're really rattled about the proposal President Trump put forward last week. That's what this should tell you first and foremost. But he said that their response will be to stay in Gaza. He's saying with Khamenei, and he said, we were victorious. Sorry, just reading it straight off my phone, looking down here and looking at you guys too. He said, quote, he declared victory, and Iran did too, not the first time. Quote, the enemy, the Israeli enemy, did not achieve any of its goals in this battle. It was not able to destroy Hamas, nor was it able to return its captives or maintain a presence in Gaza. Israel accepted defeat, he said. It retreated, and the displaced Palestinian people are returning to their homeland, leaving Gaza and Palestine proud and dignified. Where do you think Darwish lives? Just curious. Doha, Qatar. He lives in Qatar. Surprise, surprise. It's no wonder people have called Qatar a state sponsor of terror for their support of Hamas. And he said, we've achieved a great victory against the Zionist enemy and also against the entire Western system and apparatus that supported the aggression against us. From the very first day on October 7th, 2023, we achieved victory and stood firm for 15 months. And the supreme leader, he said, Khamenei, he emphasized his extensive support for us, for our cause, for the resistance. Interesting. Iran said Hamas was victorious. The Palestinians in Gaza were victorious. The Hamas leaders say, we won. We're victorious. We're declaring victory. And folks, on one hand, and I warned you about this, we knew they were going to declare victory. We knew the optics of it. They were going to declare victory. We knew this, no matter what happened. But listen, there's a reason President Trump felt compelled to put forward this relocation plan, because Gaza is a steaming heap of rubble right now. Let's be honest. Why? Not because of Israeli war crimes, so-called. No, because Hamas launched a war without provocation against Israel and invaded Israel, southern Israel, slaughtered 1,200 people, took hundreds more into captivity. That's called starting a war. The Japanese started a war on Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941 with the United States. You get the picture where this is going. So if you start a war and you're defeated, there are consequences. And one of the consequences are you're smashed and your infrastructure is smashed, especially when you turn the Gaza Strip into one big 25-mile-long hornet's nest of tunnels, rockets, and booby traps. It's one giant booby trap, the entire Gaza Strip. That's how you could classify it, I'm sad to say. And guess what? In many cases, the innocent civilians, so-called, were in on it. Thousands invaded Israel behind Hamas, thousands of civilians on October 7th. We've seen massive mobs of them cheering and jeering during these hostage handovers. And we know that Palestinian civilians harbored Hamas terrorists in their homes and actually held captives and helped to abuse captives in their homes. So it's a society that's rotten to its core. And that's a fact. Brainwashed, indoctrinated, radicalized by Hamas on jihad and from the time they're young, 2-3 years old. This is madness. And President Trump said, no, we can't do it anymore. The definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So no, we're not going to pour billions of dollars into Gaza yet again, only to have a jihadi group, whether it's Hamas or some other group, pocket the billions and use it to build rockets and tunnels and attack Israel. We're not going to do it. This is like Groundhog Day, the jihadi version. We're not going to do it. Then you have the zombies. It's insane. These people are supposed to be intelligent. In Europe in particular, in the EU, European Union, the UN, and the Democrat Party here in America, I call them the two-state zombies. The zombified line of thinking that we must have a two-state solution. They're incapable of thinking outside the box. Well, not so Donald Trump. And his plan, we talked about it at length last week, but just to reiterate, because he talked about it again earlier today. And Bibi, upon his return to Israel over the weekend, Bibi said, we got to move forward with this plan. It's the only way. Trump said, look, Gaza is hell on earth. By the way, he didn't say this, but much of that hell, as I mentioned a minute ago, is self-created by the Palestinians in Gaza. Let's be frank. They voted for Hamas in 2006. One of the consequences of losing a war that you launched is sometimes, you know what, you lose land as part of that war. So Trump said, get them out. He's not talking about forcible evacuations. He's saying, look, Egypt, Jordan, other countries surrounding, take them. Trump said, we'll build them nice homes. Let's see if they destroy them, by the way, like they destroyed Gaza, but I digress. But we'll build them nice homes. We'll get them out of Gaza. They can start fresh, and they won't want to return to Gaza. Trump said today, no, they're not going to return. They're gone for good. We're emptying them out of Gaza. They've caused so much hell for themselves and for others over the decades. No more. Time for a fresh start there. It's one of the world's biggest problems. We're going to solve it. So we're going to rebuild Gaza, put luxury homes there, some waterfront property, make it an economic zone, create thousands of jobs. Look, you may think it's crazy. You may think it may not work. But you know what? At least it's an idea. It's a different strategy, something different than the same zombified two-state madness that ain't going to work. The status quo cannot remain any longer. And Trump just smashed the paradigm. He smashed it. And God bless him for doing it. Much of the world is howling and wailing and gnashing its teeth, especially the Arab and Muslim world, because they've used the Palestinians as a pawn over the years. They could care less about the Palestinians. They're just a cudgel with which they can beat Israel and accuse Israel. Look at what you're doing in Gaza. And then all of a sudden, Trump's saying, well, that's going to be gone. You won't have that card to play anymore. And they don't like it. And Europe doesn't like it because Europe does the same thing, quite frankly. Point the finger at Israel and blame Israel. So that's been blown out of the water. But ultimately here, and we'll see where it goes, Trump is committed to this. And at the end of the day, it may not work. It may never materialize, the plan that he's laid out. But what he has done, again, he has smashed the paradigm and he's changed the conversation. The conversation has been turned on its head. And now the onus has been put on the Arab nations, where it should be when it comes to the Palestinians. What do you guys? Okay, you don't want to do this? Do you have a better suggestion? That's what Trump's saying. What's your idea? Two-state solution. Sorry, it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked. It's got to change. To put an end to the misery, it's got to change. So I think Bibi and Trump are united in this. I think they're going to do a lot of good together. And much of that goes with Iran as well, because as I've laid out today, Iran's not going to stop either. They're hosting Hamas leaders. They're down. Certainly Iran is down right now. Hamas is down right now. But they're anything but out. And the ultimate solution is to crush Hamas, just crush them. No one thought it was going to happen overnight. It's been 16 months. They were so entrenched. It takes a while. Israel's made great headway in that regard, but more needs to be done. Ultimately, Hezbollah will need to be dealt with in a decisive, final way and crushed. And Iran's regime's got to go. Preferably, the Iranian people do that job themselves, but eventually the end game there, after these 46 years of hell that they've unleashed on the region, their own people and the world, they got to go. That regime needs to change, clearly, because that is the head of the snake for all terror in the region. But as I reiterated today, Hamas, Iran, still thick as thieves, still meeting over the weekend, still hatching new schemes, feet that run towards evil. But they've got a foil now in Netanyahu and Trump. So fasten your seatbelt. This is the year of reckoning in the Middle East, whether it's Iran's nuclear program, whether it's the Abraham Accords, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Syria. What's going to happen there? New jihadi government, Turkish-backed, the Houthis in Yemen, Gaza. Folks, so much happening in the world's most chaotic and volatile region. That's why we are glad that you are here with us for a front row seat. We'll continue to break it down for you every single day. Hey, in the meantime, 2 quick notes before we go. Number one, premium live stream for our premium members this Wednesday, February 12th. Wow, this month's flying by, right? February 12th, this Wednesday, 4 p.m. Central Time, I will be coming to you live for our premium members. Now, everyone can subscribe. It's completely free, of course. We love all of our subscribers. Whether you're premium or not, we love and appreciate you. But if you want to go a little bit deeper and get some extra little perks, if you're here every day with us, premium membership's a great way to go. Just click on join on the homepage. I think it's $4.99 a month, and it helps us stay afloat, which is the main thing. Helps us keep coming to you with this important information every day. And there's some good little perks in there too for premium membership. And one of them is our premium live streams, where it's just myself and the premium members doing a Q&A session. It's going to be fun. Bring your questions. Ask me anything. That's Wednesday, February 12th. And also, while you're at it, we do have Watchman merch by popular demand. And right now, you can check it out in the description under this video. Again, you'll find the URL in the description under this video. Right now, a 50% discount off all Watchman gear. That's hoodies, it's hats, it's mugs, it's t-shirts. 50% off right now, folks. So under the description for this video, you'll find the link for Watchman merch. We think you'll like it. Hey, until tomorrow, keep it all in prayer, right? This really, I think good things are on the horizon, some positive developments for the first time in a long time in the Middle East, but continue to raise it up in prayer and pray for wisdom, discernment, and clarity, in particular for the leaders, people like a Trump, like Netanyahu, who have these monumentous decisions to make for such a time as this. Until next time, God bless you, and remember, never hold your peace.
Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload, and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.